There is something happening in the near future for Bitcoin. Death Cross, okay? Death Cross is a very famous, I guess, signal, utilizing the 50 and 200 moving average on a daily scale. And whenever they cross over each other, you're either forming a golden cross or a death cross. And it sounds exactly like how it sounds. Death cross is not good, right? And golden cross sounds great. So death cross is when the 50 crosses below the 200, and the golden is opposite, when the 50 crosses above the 200. And we're right at that point. Like, we're right there. If Bitcoin slides a little bit lower to about 52.2, 52.3, then we have officially formed a death cross. I believe the lines are kind of like touching right now, but hasn't happened yet. So a lot of people are looking at this and wondering if this is very bad, right? The last time we went through a death cross situation, Bitcoin was coming down. Let me actually show you guys. So I'm going to go on a daily scale. Okay, so you could see we're like right there. Last time Bitcoin formed a death cross was when it was at 48,500. And then it formed a death cross and Bitcoin went down, down, and down, and did not get a golden cross until it broke above 19,800, right? So obviously this would be no good if we form a death cross and continue downwards. It's a possibility. However, the other possibility is that this actually shows how exhausted the market is and Bitcoin is about to turn. The thing is, with these moving indicators, moving averages, they're what's considered lagging indicators. Okay, so they're averaging out all the previous movement from before. So there are situations where you form a death cross and then you start rallying upwards. Okay, I'll show you this, like right here. Right, when Bitcoin was coming down from 64,000, it formed a death cross right around 42,000. But you could see clearly shortly afterwards, it started coming back up and going higher, right? So that's a situation where death cross was actually a good thing. And there's been many times, if you go backwards, you'll see the same thing happen. When Bitcoin crashed to 3,800 back in March, right? You could see, oh no, it formed a death cross right here. But look at Bitcoin's price. It kept going and going and going and going. And that was a very, very, very short-lived death cross situation. And we just turned bullish, right? But at this point in time, I still remember, it wasn't too long ago, there were many people at that time saying, oh no, Bitcoin formed a death cross. We will be going down to 1,000, right? But it didn't, and Bitcoin kept going, right? So there's situations where if you are coming off from a tremendous fall, a death cross actually signals the end is near, that the bottom is near, that Bitcoin is ready to flip upwards. But if you're coming off from a very, let's say, parabolic run, then a death cross could certainly mean that we're going lower, right? So I'm interpreting this. First of all, we haven't officially formed it yet. But if we do, I'm going to take it that this is the bottom point, that Bitcoin has finally fallen or consolidated enough so that it's ready to move higher. And the reason why I'm going with that route rather than we're going to see Bitcoin crash down to like 12,000 or 10,000 that some people are still talking about is because the fundamentals haven't changed. The fundamentals of Bitcoin has never, ever been stronger. Right? If there's a lot of indication of miners selling or addresses falling off or the number of holders now selling, well, then that tells you then this time maybe it's different. But when all of those things still point in the reverse, meaning that they're getting stronger and more people are accumulating, well, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to think that Bitcoin's going to fall down and form a new low, right? So just want to pinpoint that death cross does not always mean that bad things are coming. In fact, a lot of times when you get death cross, that's when Bitcoin starts flipping upwards. All right. So just want to highlight that. Also, here's something else that compares what we're going through right now with 2019. Now, 2019, coming off from bottom, we went on a tremendous run. From 3,100 all the way to 14,000 within a matter of months. But then, unfortunately, Bitcoin crashed down again. You could see 1, 2, 3. That 3 mark went down because that was the pandemic crash, right? The pandemic crash brought everything lower. So, unfortunately, it didn't make a double bottom. But this time around, right, it does look like, hey, we may be coming down. We may be making a double bottom before going upwards. But again, unless the fundamentals change, unless there's something on a global scale or something disastrous happens, I don't see us going back down to 15 or forming a new low. I see that we go down a little bit, which we have, and then we're going upwards, right? So that number 3 was the one time in Bitcoin's chart where it got screwy because that was the forced mandate by all governments around the world to shut down and go home, and unemployment skyrocketed to like 15% at that point. And honestly, it was probably higher because everyone got sent home. But that was the only time in Bitcoin's history where you saw that we had kind of like a retracement coming off from a bottom point, right? And it kind of retraced down. But even then, it did not form a new low. It was still higher than the previous low, right? But that number 3 mark really did kind of like skew things. If you look at it on a grand scale, on an overall chart, you just never saw that before. Anyways, so yeah, so there's that. But of course, this is what we're really looking forward to, right? I mean, if you want a chart, you zoom out, you just look at it. This is what we have to look forward to if we're following this channel, which we have been going all the way back to 2017. And yeah, I lived through those days as well, and it was very scary back then too. But if we're using the same bottom and upper channel, okay, or trend lines, I should say, within this channel, well, that means, hey, we're about to form that double bottom, right? And we're about to rock and roll all the way up to a new all-time high, right, after the halving event, and as we move closer and closer to 2024 and 2025, right? The fundamentals have not changed, not one bit. In fact, fundamentals have gotten stronger for some reason, okay? Actually, I wanted to show you this first. For some reason, we had a crazy 700,000 new address day for Bitcoin. Just look at this. Normally you get a lot of, new addresses, but man, we just had one where we added over 700,000 new addresses. So this is part of the fundamentals, okay? It's just awesome. Keeps on going up. And everything I've showed that measures that number of addresses holding, not 0 Bitcoin, at least something, 0.1 Bitcoin, all-time high, 1 Bitcoin, all-time high, 10 Bitcoin, all-time high, right? So that's why I say fundamentals have never been better, because it's true. It's true.